AskReddit by Charming Cash. Married people of Reddit, what's something you wish unmarried people knew? Your single problems will be your married problems. Marriage and your spouse can't fix you. Work on yourself as much as you can before you get married. For yourself and for your spouse. And honestly, any problems you have in your marriage are more than likely problems your parents had that you've internalized. Growing up, my household was like a bunch of roommates. Just 5 people doing their own thing. As a kid, that will fuck you up in ways you won't realize until much later. You don't learn how to resolve issues, because you're expected to fix your own shit. You don't know how to even communicate issues, especially in the relationship, because you don't even have an understanding of what a relationship actually is or what healthy boundaries look like. And you don't even know how to share your happiness with other people because, again, all you've ever seen is people living their own lives in slight orbit around the person they are married to. Marriage and relationships are so much more than what most people think, but a lot of us are so badly educated about what those things can be that we don't even know enough to start that conversation. It's okay to use 2 blankets. No one likes to wake up with cold ass cheeks because your spouse stole the blanket. This was a game changer for us. We're both cold creatures, but we both also like our space in bed. We'll cuddle for a few minutes, then separate to our respective sides of the bed to actually sleep. We each have our own duvet and it works out perfectly. Getting married will not help solve any issues in your relationship. On the contrary, it is more or less guaranteed to make any problems you currently have worse. The wedding is just one day and does not fix any issues. It goes back to the exact same relationship afterwards. And if you're lucky, that's a good thing. Yes, people always told me not to get married BC it changes your whole relationship. But it changed nothing for my husband and I just got some really good pics together and that's about it, lol. Common values matter way more than common interests. This is a really great way to say this. Just think of any interest you have, you attain that interest over time. You and your partner will each take on some of the other's interests over time, and some will stay your own, and you'll find others at the intersection of your interests neither of you might have tried alone. Compromise is not a sign of weakness. It is done out of respect for your spouse. Also, not everything requires compromise. Sometimes the answer is, you both do your own thing separately. Think about what the impact a decision has on you and your partner before going immediately into negotiations. A gracious, heartfelt apology goes a long way. Adding on to this, make sure to be accepting of heartfelt apologies as well. Grudges are never good in relationships. Learn to forgive your partner, especially when they've gone to the effort of apologizing and trying to be better. You don't have to argue or fight. You're different people and it's okay to not agree on everything. It would be weird if you did. I see a lot of people fighting because they're always trying to get the other person to come around to their point of view. Accept that you're different and have fun together. In addition to loving each other, you should like each other. Edit. Seriously amazed by how this has blown up. I've actually made these same points at other times on different subreddits and it hasn't always been so positively received. Thank you. Ideally, you don't fight each other, you negotiate and discuss. You fight together on problems. Marriage changes nothing about a relationship. You'll be exactly the same after marriage as you were before. Kids on the other hand. Yeah, kids change everything completely. Time is no longer your own, especially with infants and toddlers. If your marriage doesn't have a solid foundation, do not have children. It's not you vs spouse. It's you and spouse vs problem. That not teaming up thing is often the root cause of divorce. Getting married is easy. Staying married is hard. Get help if things seem too hard. My wife and I both carried a lot of childhood trauma into our marriage. A counselor helped us both understand that and gave us tools to handle it. We would have divorced without the help. Yes. Also, your wedding is just the first day of your marriage. If some people put the same effort into their marriage as their wedding, we'd have a lot more happy couples. Don't be dumb and rush into it. This takes a lot of work. I'm always afraid my fiancé are rushing into it because we're young-ish. We're both 26 but have been together for almost 6 years and have lived together for 3. So I feel safe to say that we've worked through many issues that newlyweds face. The first year and a half of living together had plenty of conflicts. What we learned is that it takes communication and a willingness to listen and self-reflect in order to effectively solve anything that comes our way. Find someone who is your biggest cheerleader and vice versa. No matter what, life is so much easier. Love my wife. My girlfriend is this way always. It makes me so happy because she's always so much more excited for me than I am. I'm proposing soon. It's better to stay single forever than to marry the wrong person. We had a pastor at a church that used to ask, "What's going to happen when you get married and then you meet the one?" Spending time with my wife is neither a burden nor a chore. She was my best friend before we even started dating. Of course I enjoy hanging out with her. Dude, yes. I wouldn't have married my husband if I didn't enjoy spending time with him. WTF. Hate when my coworkers sit around shit talking their spouses and I'm just there like, cool, y'all sound toxic. I actually like my husband and look forward to chilling with him every day. Saying let me ask my wife doesn't mean I'm asking permission. We're a team. We make decisions together. Also, if it's about going to or doing something, I'm really forgetful and want to make sure we haven't already made plans. Yes. Me talking to my husband about plans doesn't mean he's controlling or that I can't do what I want. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't forget we're doing something that night, and I'm also not about to commit into plans without actually seeing if he's into them first. It's okay for your relationship to look the way you want it to. Don't worry about stereotypes or society standards. If you enjoy separate hobbies, great. If you want to play video games together well into your 40s plus, go for it. As long as you're not being abusive towards one another, I really do think there's no right or wrong way to do marriage. It took me a few years to realize I didn't need to fit some wife mold due to the way I was raised, and I'm so much happier now that we live exactly the way we want to. There are good people out there. You can be loved consistently, deeply, and with kindness. This is why I still have hope. For the love of God, don't go crazy with how much you spend on the wedding day. It's one day and it's over in a flash. Try to keep costs down as much as you can. That money you saved can go towards a house or into savings for when you'll truly need it. Also, the whole don't go to bed mad thing is absolutely bullshit. Go to bed mad. When you have both slept on it, you may see things in a different light and tensions have calmed. Happy wife, happy life is toxic to marriage as well. You should be concerned with each other's happiness equally. It's a partnership. Happy spouse, happy house is a better and more equal mantra for both partners. The person they are before you marry them is the person they'll be after. Don't believe marriage makes a person change or grow up. Divorce is awful and terrible and painful. Before you enter into marriage, realize that the only way out, except death I guess, is a very painful, public, and traumatizing experience. If you don't truly believe you can make it work for the rest of your life, don't do it unless you can handle the train wreck that is divorce. Got divorced in 2013. Can confirm. It was terrible and miserable and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Be sure your partner is who you really want to spend your life with. Be very, very sure. You have to marry the right person. How do you know who that person is? Your values match up. If your values don't match up, at least 95% don't marry that person. A really wonderful tip I've heard is marry the person that feels like home, Meaning if you truly feel at ease, vulnerable, safe, and like you can fully let your guard down around them, that's the person for you. Life is hard. A marriage is the ultimate partnership. No matter what happens, I have her back. No matter what happens, she has my back. Only enter a marriage if you truly support your partner for better or worse. Furthermore, you are going to experience some of the or worse. A good marriage is when both partners can take on a or worse situation, support each other and come out okay. I've been with my wife for 13 years. It's not all sunshine and roses. We stay together because of honest conversations, even the really hard conversations. You have to have those long talks in which you get to the core beliefs. Not surface talks. Once you have a framework of core values, then you and your partner can actually make real decisions. Learn to communicate with each other. Good communication goes a long way to keeping things together. Both parties have to be willing and able to sit down and talk about things. Maybe not right away, but at some point. Have some give and take. Realize that you come from different circumstances and that you won't always be speaking the same language, but taking things through will make the biggest difference. Oh, and if you can't communicate with someone at all before you get married, don't. During a long relationship you will face devastating emotional events, i.e., death of parents, that will test the limits of your bond. If you married anyone less than your best friend, your relationship will not survive. The divorce rate of partners who've lost children is almost 67%. My wife and I have lost our son, and both sets of parents during our 38 years of marriage, and we wouldn't have survived if not for the fact that we're best friends who are emotionally bonded beyond the bedroom. It's not always sunshine and unicorns. There will be disagreements, fights, disappointments. Marriage can be great, but it takes work and communication. Marriage, and long-term relationships in general, are a lot less work if done with the right person. It seems obvious, but looking through a lot of these comments, I'm seeing disasters of relationships leading to the idea that marriage is a ton of work, or that fights and insults are just something to be expected, or that you have to have a plan for therapy and constant apologies and reconciliation. My wife and I have none of this in our marriage. We're compatible, we enjoy each other's company, respect each other's boundaries, and get along easily. It seems to me that the tricky part is finding the right person, so that you don't end up with the tricky part of averting divorce and disaster while married to the wrong person. I don't know that there are any magic bullets to that trick, but I can tell you that issues like sitting down with a marriage counselor or learning how to reconcile after a screaming match don't have to be part of navigating a marriage if you're not that incompatible to begin with. I'm glad to see this comment. BC all the marriage is so hard every single day comments just don't jive with my experience, lol. My husband and I don't fight and we don't have a difficult time being together. We've had difficult circumstances in our lives, but our relationship has always been easy. I think compatibility and respecting the actuality of who your so is are the keys. I'm not asking permission when I say, let me check with spouse. I'm either politely saying no to you, or I'm informing my spouse so I can verify we don't have plans, or I'm informing him so he's not wondering where I am, etc. It's courtesy. Never stop dating your partner. Marriage doesn't mean you get to be complacent. This means making time and setting your schedules aside just as you did when you weren't engaged for your loved one. Sex really does get better the longer you work at it. How is this so low? So for a guy that I don't think is good looking, I got around a good amount before marriage. I had a lot of experience, and thought that once I settled down that sex would take on a more boring sort of role in my life. 10 years of marriage later, almost, and my wife and I understand each other's subtle signs and turn-ons much better than we did on our wedding night. Every time is better than the last, and we both work at making sure the other is pleasured and had their fill. Communication plays a big part, and so does being honest with your expectations and urges.